Cynthia Harris-Pagano, and I've done a series of paintings on Genesis, which, if I have the very first one here, I will show in a minute. And I want to start with Genesis from the Bible, the King James Version, which was written in 1611, and we start out with the first statements in Genesis, and let's hand these out. See if you can hand some of these out.
I'll do it.
This is the whole deal, but these are, these are the Genesis series. And
Thank you.
this comes from the King James Bible, which
Here, I'll take.
was done, as I think I said, 1611. The Bible we have here in the Presbyterian Church was done somewhat later, and it's a little more in our present-day language. Our pastor, Jeffrey Farley, has said that our Bible now is more or less geared to the intelligence of at least the 6th grade level. But the King James Version was a little more elaborate language. So that's what I am starting to portray in this particular series, which I am going to show here in a series which starts on the top and goes down in a series of etchings from top to bottom, and then the second one from top to bottom, third one top to bottom, fourth and fifth. These were based on a series of large paintings. And the very first one, which you see up here, the world was without form and void, comes right from Genesis. And this is the first painting. And they were done, this was done, it was a very large painting. And all the others were following with large paintings, and these are actually facsimiles of the large paintings that were started and completed in 1970. Now, put this over here. Where did these images come from? They came, first of all, we started with the Bible, but the Bible, the King James Version, was done in 1611, done in English, but somebody in the vernacular, in English, but way before that there was a long history of the Bible being written in various languages. And it was first done in English, and then the person that did it in the English got in a lot of trouble because nobody wanted to hear about it in English. So, but we're going to start with the English version. The earth was without form and void, and on these things, that's what it says. And here I say the text goes on to say that darkness was on the face of the deep. But in mine, it's very, it's very light. It's very light here. But when there's no light, there's no contrast to give us a feeling of light, so it could be light or dark if we're depicting it. And in this case, it came to me in light, and it just came to me. And where did this image come from? Well, as we talk to scientists, they say millions and millions of years, the ones who are interpreting the Bible in terms of God's time. So millions of years passed before we ended up where we are today. So, how am I going to illustrate this when I'm reading the Bible? How am I going to? So, one of the things that happened since ancient times was called the Ouroboros symbol. It was very, very, very early in ancient times, and it was a serpent, a serpente. A serpent went round, and the tail went back into its mouth. And so they started with that round circle, ancient times, and don't forget, way before we had writing, we had visual. We had all sorts of stuff on caves, and we had all sorts of stuff carved on rocks, and we had symbols of the circle that came down since ancient times. And so after what some of us call millions of years, but in consolidating it, those in the Bible called in the first day, we've got that circle, and we, for those of us who are thinking about coming way up to the human body, we come up with something like this, which are bones. If I can get them together properly. Two. Okay. I did it this morning, but somebody might do it better than me. Here's the sacrum, goes right there, and there we go. The two bones. Come together, and that's the front, and right, it makes a circle, and in between these two and the back, all that rough stuff is around something called the sacrum. So all together, it makes a round circle, and right in there, that goes from the birth canal. So it goes back here, and we go into the birth canal. And so that is a start, because what better way, if we're going to try and visualize what happened, what better way, what can possibly be more of a miracle than the human body and the human bone structure? So here we have those two places that I just put together. There they are. And then in here would be the birth canal, and here would be the two bones. So that's just, for better or for worse, that's a way that was given to me to try to think about, or even to visualize, thinking about the miracle of the beginning. And so then, Life magazine, well, Life magazine in 1965, doesn't it come out with all this stuff about the miracle of birth? And this was 1965. And there were never anything like this before. It was just amazing. And well, here's all these millions of little sperms just, and all of a sudden we get this thing almost like a question mark. And so when I'm doing it, the next one, the Spirit of God was moving over the face of the waters. And that was together, that was locked together, but then it sort of separated. So the two sides, and then a little bit of color came into it. And it looked a lot like that little embryo. And then again, here, and God said, well, here it's starting to circle around, and it's starting to break apart. And there's coming more color. And this only just came, this is the best I could do to it just sort of came, and so I took it down. And all these were like big paintings like that. And then God said, of course not God said literally in words, but of course visually went way before words. Visually went way before words. And let there be light. And of course that was so exciting when God said that. So this form just circles around, and everything is based on this, what I call the containing form. The containing form, which is the other side of the whole. It swings around, and there's the beginnings of a cell, like a cell or something like that. And then this form also, as it breaks apart, it gets an indentation. And then it gets a real indentation up here. And then, there's that containing form. And the containing form was always like a basis of the containing and the contained, male and female, or where we think of God as having that dual, the quality, even of the Holy Spirit working together. And then it swings around, and there it is. There's that form. It swings right around, and this cell grows and becomes a big disc, and there was light. And of course, there was light even in the Bible. There was light in the beginning, even before the sun and the moon were created. So for some reason, this goes right along with that. And it's still, now it's got pretty much full color. And then the thing has to be born, because we're looking at birth, we're looking at the miracle of birth, because what else have we got to really try to grapple with all these millions of years? And what finally came to us. And so now this gets three-dimensional, and it goes right down. And it's, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. Well, what the heck was that? I mean, we had Bible study even before Reverend Farley. We had Bible study, and waters from the waters. You know, what the devil was that? Well, and so I was thinking about this and thinking, well, when there is a birth, there's the waters above and the waters below. And where else do we get to experience something like that? So, I tried to imagine in what image the Hebrews had conceived the waters above and below the firmament. Because the firmament could also be the heavens. They interpret, so there's the heavens, and here's this form inside the waters, boom, ready to be born. Finally, about a year later, I realized that the only experience which I could imagine that this could possibly be taken was the experience of childbirth. And even today, we still carry the expression, the breaking of the waters. Now here we kind of depart, because up to this, because this would be that containing form, and it's really stretched to the limit for this kind of a birth image. So we're going off to the east somewhere, and we're getting, let the waters in the heavens be gathered in one place, and let the dry land appear. So this kind of was a takeoff. We're sort of giving a pause to that, and we're getting the waters and the fishes, and then it turns into birds, and that sort of just sort of came along. And then the next image, I had a great big thing with the land coming, and my daughter, granddaughter said, oh, anybody could do that. So then I sort of changed it, and I sort of took this one, and I sort of a little differently. Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together. So, and let the dry land appear. So we're sort of taking off on that and getting to that. So we're taking some liberties here. But I was taking it more or less as it came. And then, let the earth bring forth creatures. So this one is as far as I got in my studio up in Middletown, but these were called ebexes, and they were painted right on jars, and that's just a copy, and just barely got a print out of that, of these ebex, but their horns, it's an exact copy. The horn went around like that on those things. And then inside were like two little discs in those foliages. And Life magazine, I will say, they did these amazing things. And this was 1965. And this was, and they did stuff about the creation. And this was a very early painting before Michelangelo came along and took over everything. Of a disc and the earth and everything. I thought maybe you'd pass that around, because that was done in the 1500s, and that's a beautiful image. So we got that, and then finally we get back to this guy, this containing shape, and boom, we double up. The containing shape jumps around twice. And two more things are born, just like what happened over there. And it says, let us make man in our image. And that, beginning in the Bible, when it talks about the beginnings, it said there were several priestly writers that wrote about the beginning. And the story of, like Michelangelo did, of making man in the Sistine Chapel and bringing woman up out of his rib, he illustrated that. And people accept that. But there was another writer who did say, after that story, and it's even said that one writer must have wrote that story because it's such an amazing story, and it's just such a exciting story. But the other writer, and they called it the Elohist, he says, let us make man in our image. So that means we've got two here. Our image. And that's when my press broke down, and that was the end of the etchings. So, but the paintings went all the way through. So eventually, I'm hoping to finish. So we just took some photographs here. Let us make man in our image. This is the whole thing of all the big paintings. And here we get male and female. He created them. And you see the little remnants of that containing shape has kind of lifted up, pulled itself away, and here we get male and female. Not exactly the same, but they're still male and female, and there they are. The outer containing form has withdrawn, and the image of man, as told by the Elohist, is left. So it's withdrawn. So your eyes will be open, and you will be like God. This is what was said. That's the other guy writing the story too. So these ones are opened up, and boom, there goes the snake circling around, and there's the apple of the eye. These are the words of the serpent to Eve I have emphasized in my painting. Not the choice of consciousness, but the inevitability of consciousness. The apple is placed by the containing snake in the center of the eye, the pupil, so that the eye sees, and thus the eye becomes EYE, conscious identity. So we have the expression, the apple of my eye. But finally, boom, those containing shapes smack shut, and out comes the iris. Therefore, God sent him forth. Finally, the expulsion, the completed birth of mankind, and the painful realization of who and what we are, our own mortality, our vulnerability, our dividing into two sexes. The containing form has closed, completing the cycle of birth. And the human I am, I exist, is cast out into the world. And so, now Adam knew Eve. In Hebrew, both men and women, Adam meant mankind. This is an exact copy of the birth colonnade of Queen Mudamua at Luxor, Egypt. The headdress of both the god Ammon and Mudamua is similar to the containing forms now snapped shut in 13. And when that happened, I said, oh my God, that is amazing. That is incredible. That those forms would be the same. It was like a miracle. But anyway, that's the miracle that I sort of experienced. And so the idea was to share it, to do my best to put it out there. Because we as artists, we do what we can to put something out there. And that's my story. Thank you for being so quiet and so attentive.
Thank you.
All right, now we're ready. Ready for the